For years, it seemed like nothing could stop the meteoric rise of China's electric vehicle industry. Rapid innovation, high-tech cars at unbeatable prices, and a dizzying pace of development. On average, a new EV model is launched every other day in China. Major international auto shows, once dominated by German car makers, are now led by Chinese giants like BYD and others. But behind the glittering surface of booming sales lies a darker truth. Ferocious price wars, early bankruptcies, massive overcapacity, delayed supplier payments, and even fabricated sales figures are beginning to surface. More and more Chinese automakers are fighting for survival. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the shadows of China's aggressive growth strategy and the unique opportunity this creates for German automakers. Let's go back a bit. Until the 1980s, China's car industry had virtually no international relevance. It was only after the country opened up economically that things started to change. Global automakers saw China as an explosive growth market and raced to enter. But there was a catch. They could only build factories in China through joint ventures with local companies. This was no accident. It was a clever move by Beijing to make sure domestic companies could learn directly from global industry leaders, especially VW, GM, and Toyota, on how to produce high-quality vehicles at scale. However, Chinese authorities soon realized that catching up to Western dominance in combustion engine technology would be difficult, if not impossible. So in 2009, the government pivoted. It began heavily subsidizing vehicles using new energy sources, specifically electric cars. This strategic shift supercharged companies like BYD, NIO, Xpeng, and Geely, propelling them into global recognition. Between 2009 and 2023, Beijing reportedly invested around 230 billion euros in its electric vehicle sector. The goal? Turn China into the global EV leader. And it worked. Today, China is the world's largest EV market, with domestic sales outpacing the rest of the world combined. In just the first quarter of 2025, the market grew another 45%. But massive growth doesn't automatically mean healthy business models. We've seen this before. Think of the German solar industry around 2010. A rapid rise, then a brutal fall. Market leaders went bankrupt almost overnight. Even BYD, the world's largest EV maker with over 650,000 employees, nearly as many as VW, has hit speed bumps. Though still profitable, BYD recently had to scale back production. Inventories piled up, representing over 3 months of unsold vehicles. One major distributor was forced to close 20 outlets. In response, BYD slashed prices, offering discounts as high as 34%. While that might sound like a great deal for consumers, it sent shockwaves through the industry. One executive compared it to drinking poison to quench thirst. It's a warning sign, not a vote of confidence. And the markets reacted accordingly. BYD stock took a major hit. The truth is, BYD's price cuts are just the tip of the iceberg. China's auto industry is locked in a brutal price war. So brutal, in fact, that many automakers are selling vehicles at a loss, just to clear inventory. To survive, many Chinese manufacturers are now looking abroad. Exporting to international markets can be far more profitable. In Europe, for instance, Chinese EVs often sell for twice what they would back home. But expanding overseas is expensive. Building dealer networks, shipping logistics, navigating regulations, and only the biggest players like BYD can afford to do it. Smaller companies are being crushed. This is one of the hidden risks of fast-growing markets. Often, only 1 or 2 large players survive, pushing out smaller competitors through economies of scale and price pressure. Some manufacturers are now subsidizing each vehicle by 5,000 to over 10,000 euros, in the hope that scale, growth, and efficiency will eventually make them profitable. But many haven't reached that point yet. The fight for survival has begun. In some cases, automakers are reportedly manipulating sales figures to maintain appearances and keep receiving government subsidies. For instance, one company allegedly insured vehicles before they were sold to customers, letting them report them as sold. Another practice, known as zero-kilometer export, involves registering new cars as sold domestically, then immediately exporting them as used cars to avoid high tariffs. This tactic allows companies to offload vehicles that couldn't sell locally. It also inflates GDP stats, a benefit for local governments. In 2024, roughly 400,000 cars were moved this way, many of them combustion engine vehicles, but some were EVs as well. According to government reports, between 2016 and 2020, automakers applied for around 103 million euros in subsidies they weren't entitled to. Even major names like BYD and Chery have been mentioned in media reports, though it's unclear if they were directly involved. But now, Beijing is stepping in. The government has announced it will more closely monitor automakers' costs and pricing strategies. Officials warned BYD directly, urging them to halt the price wars, saying they could harm quality, safety, and innovation across the entire industry. And while BYD might be able to weather the storm, they're not invincible. Despite being the second largest battery manufacturer globally, BYD doesn't fully finance its expansion from profits. Instead, it relies heavily on debt. As of late July, their debt had reached nearly 43 billion euros. That's not a bankruptcy trigger, especially for a company with over 80 billion in revenue. But if profit margins shrink, it could become a major issue. Worse still, BYD has come under scrutiny for delaying payments to suppliers, sometimes for over 275 days. The industry average in China is already high, about 182 days. Outside of China, automakers typically pay in half that time. This puts enormous strain on suppliers. While some tolerate the delays because they can use BYD's IOUs as collateral for loans, it's not sustainable. In response, the government pushed major automakers to commit to paying suppliers within 60 days going forward. Still, experts believe more casualties are coming. Companies selling fewer than 200,000 cars per year may soon vanish. One such company, Neta, recently filed for bankruptcy. Even better-known brands like NIO, which sell large volumes but remain unprofitable, could face funding issues as investors grow wary. We may be on the cusp of a major consolidation in China's auto industry. But let's be clear, this doesn't mean Chinese automakers are finished. Far from it. Their EVs remain world-class in terms of battery tech, software, design, and affordability. They're still the innovation leaders. In fact, BYD just became the world's 7th largest car manufacturer. The goal of this analysis isn't to diminish their achievements. It's to paint a more nuanced picture, one that reminds us Western automakers aren't the only ones facing challenges. So what's next? Experts predict many small and mid-sized Chinese automakers will merge or be acquired, and that could offer opportunities, not just for survival, but for transformation. Interestingly, the Chinese government supports this consolidation. It sees little long-term value in keeping weaker firms afloat. Historically, such periods of market irrationality and overcapacity have given rise to future champions. BYD will likely be one of them. But Europe's struggling auto industry may also see a wave of consolidation. And here lies an opportunity for German car makers. Financially strong German firms could potentially acquire troubled Chinese brands like Leapmotor or Xpeng. At the same time, they can regain market share in China by offering innovative new models. After all, why would consumers buy from a brand that might go bankrupt? Especially when that would jeopardize service, spare parts, and software support. Now is the time for German automakers to highlight what they do best: quality, product maturity, and robust service networks. In Europe especially, loyalty to homegrown brands runs deep, and Chinese automakers have yet to build strong footholds in this market. Concerns over data privacy, strict service expectations, and regulatory compliance all pose challenges. We haven't seen a flood of Chinese EVs on European streets. For example, BYD only delivered 331 vehicles to private customers in Germany between January and April this year, 6 fewer than the year before. Most of their growth came through business fleets, not individual buyers. Media coverage may be outpacing real-world impact. On top of that, the EU's tariffs on Chinese EVs are creating further barriers. In short, only the automakers that can drastically cut costs and ramp up innovation will survive, both in China and globally. German companies are finally rolling out their long-awaited EV offensive. Mercedes' new CLA is receiving great feedback. BMW's Neue Klasse is launching soon, and VW is finally delivering budget-friendly models for the masses. To see how German automakers plan to compete with their Chinese rivals, check out my video right here. And let me know in the comments what you think about China's EV market and its future. Until next time, take care.